What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Tailgate. I'm your host, Michael Quattromani, and I'm very happy to have you here. If you enjoy listening to what I say, then make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you never miss an upload. And make sure to also subscribe to my other podcast, The 4-1. We'll be coming out with a video this Thursday, which is going to highlight our Week 2 reactions and Week 3 predictions. And I will leave a link to that channel down below. If you have the chance, just leave a like. Makes me happy. Whatever. All that good stuff. And yeah, so today I'm just going to give you my 5 biggest takeaways from the first 2 weeks of the season. Just things that prior to the season, I, along with probably many others, didn't see happening so far this year. And I have 5 things. Just a list on, yeah, so there aren't too many, look, it's 2 weeks. I'm not saying things that are like, oh, everybody pump the brakes. The Raiders are going to be a Super Bowl contender. They're 2-0. It's not stuff like that, but it's things that, going into the season, I kind of predicted otherwise, or I predicted, something that may not be completely aligning to what's actually happening right now. So, at number 1, I have the Patriots are for real. Now, look, I thought that this team was going to be good. I obviously had them beating Miami, but I didn't have them being this close to Seattle. Look, my prediction was 31-24, but it was kind of like Seattle would have been in command in the entire game, and that you wouldn't have thought if the Patriots had any shot. The Patriots got down to the 1-yard line and almost won this thing. In my life, I've been alive for 17 years. I probably watched football, can remember stuff from football, probably about 6 years, I'd say. They haven't lost too many games. But out of any Patriots loss, you take all of them together, I've never felt better about a loss than the one the Patriots took Sunday night versus the Seahawks. I really haven't. This team, there wasn't a whole lot you could really complain about with them. No team coming into this season had more uncertainty surrounding them than the New England Patriots. Plain and simple. Period. There's no team that you were like, oh, the spectrum on their, record is either 5-11 or 13-3. No team had that much of a spectrum. But the Patriots have. I would say the floor is 3-13, the ceiling's 11-5, 12-4. I've seen both of those predictions by actual reporters and analysts. So I don't think any other team has had that wide of a spectrum. We saw the Patriots beat Miami easily last week. Who cares? On to the next one. Doesn't matter. Didn't even see it. We knew, even with the lowest of low predictions, even they thought we were going to beat Miami. We were going to beat Miami, right? They're not a true test to see what this team really has. The Seattle Seahawks, though, this is a Super Bowl contender. I said in the 4-1, if you watch those videos, I'm sticking to it. This team is nuts. Russell Wilson is on a mission to get that MVP trophy, get another Lombardi. He is playing lights out right now. He's passing for 82% completion rate right now. He has great wide receivers, and they just look like a good football team right now. Their defense could be better, obviously, but look, they're a Super Bowl contender. Cam Newton went toe-to-toe with arguably the best quarterback in all of football, and like I said before, I'm going to say it 100 times after this too, they're 1 yard away from winning. The Patriots' defense was abysmal the entire game, except for the first possession where Devin McCourty had that pick six. The Patriots gave up 4 touchdowns to wide receivers against Seattle alone. Last year, they only gave up 4 touchdowns to wide receivers the entire season. Gilmore has actually been pretty bad so far this year. I will attest to that pretty easily. He gave up 7 combined catches last week to Dolphins receivers, and gave a bomb to DK Metcalf. I'm not gonna give you an exact number. I think it was either 5 or 6 catches in total. But look, that's not Defensive Player of the Year worthy. So I think it's a pretty good bet to assume that he's going to turn it around at some point. They also were without James White, who is an integral part to this offense. And I put out just sending out my condolences to him and his family. It was really tragic what happened. I hope for his mother to have a recovery. But yeah, look, I worried if the Patriots could come back. I worried if prior to this season I thought, okay, this is a lot like a Ravens team who has a mobile quarterback, a good run game, not a whole lot of receivers. And we saw the Ravens couldn't come back. Well, the Patriots were down by 12 with 4 minutes to go. They came back. They went the can't think of the word. They went the entire field once, touchdown, and went the entire field again in 4 minutes. And the defense got to stop. So, look, I think the Patriots, they're just a team you got to watch because they're gonna turn some heads this year, and Cam Newton is an elite quarterback. He is. The injuries are obviously not a problem. Right now, after week 2, he threw for 397 yards last week. The arm is there. He can run the ball. Cam Newton is the real deal. So at number 2, I have that Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be just fine. They beat the Panthers 31-17, and Brady had 2 turnovers and no Chris Godwin. Tampa Bay, in their next 6 games, has the Broncos without their starting quarterback and number 1 receiver, the banged-up Chargers, the Bears, and the Giants. That's a pretty easy stretch, so I think that we're going to see them string some wins together, and we're going to see this team look like a Super Bowl contender that I predicted prior to the season. Remember, Tom Brady has played 2 games in a Buccaneers uniform. Let's pump the brakes on just writing this team off completely because we haven't even seen them fully healthy yet. Game 1, they had no Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette with like 5 days of actual knowledge of being on the Buccaneers. He's already gone over 100 yards. And now Chris Godwin was out week 2, and he's going to be back week 3. Once Godwin comes back this week and Fournette just gets more and more touches and back into this offense, this team is going to look really good and really good quickly. At number 3, I have the Arizona Cardinals are a playoff team. This is probably, honest to God, this is probably the biggest one out of all of them for me. Look, the Cardinals, I knew they were going to be better than last year, but I didn't think they were going to be this much better. Look, it may be a little bit of an overreaction. Again, this team is 2-0. But still, look, through 2 weeks, they've looked good. In the last 2 years, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson won MVP, right, in their second seasons in the NFL. Well, Kyler Murray is in his second season in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win MVP, but so far, he is playing like it. They came out and upset the reigning NFC champs 24-20 in the opener against San Fran, obviously, and just beat the Washington football team without skipping a beat. The next 3 games are against the 0-2 Lions, the 0-2 Panthers, and the 0-2 Jets. It's not too far-fetched to assume that in 3 weeks, this team is going to be sitting atop their division at 5-0. DeAndre Hopkins is leading the league right now in catches and is 5th in yards. DeAndre Hopkins, the guy who had never caught a ball from Kyler Murray prior to this season. That connection is already lethal, and you can only expect it to go up from here. Kyler Murray, just on his name, is leading all quarterbacks in rushing yards with 158. And that 158 number is 9th in the NFL among all players, all running backs, is 9th. Their defense was questionable coming to the season, but they are 3rd in sacks and have allowed the 2nd least points in the NFL. I'm not saying this team, is like on the Patriots level of like last year or like the Steelers or something, but look, this is a good defense. It's something you got to monitor. It's something you got to look out for. This team already looks like a playoff team, and we'll just have to see how the rest of the season plays out. But as of right now, I have the Arizona Cardinals as a playoff team. Probably like a 6 or 7 seed. The only thing that really hurts them is that they're playing in the hardest division because you have the 2-0 Rams, 2-0 Seahawks, and 1-1 49ers. It's going to be tough. They're going to have to finish as 1st or 2nd in that division. I don't see them finishing 3rd and making the playoffs. But look, crazier things have happened. So we'll have to see what happens. At number 4, I have that the Green Bay Packers are fool's gold. It's time someone says it. I mean, it's early in the season, but someone's got to say it eventually. The Packers obliterated their opponents through the first 2 weeks of the season. Fair enough. But too bad their opponents were the 0-2 Vikings and the 0-2 Lions, 2 teams that are kind of on par with like Miami. This team is going to beat up on the bad teams and lose to the good ones. Their defense is bottom 10 in the NFL right now, and it's just a matter of time before that catches up with them. Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones, as we know, are 2 very shaky players when it comes to production, so it's very unrealistic to assume that they're going to keep up their production. Their next 6 games are tough. They got the Saints, the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the Texans, the Vikings, and the 49ers. That's a tough stretch, and And I'm not saying they're gonna, after being 2-0, they're gonna be 2-6 after these next 6 games, but I think this is going to be a real test to see how good this team really is. It reminds me, it's sad to say, but it reminds me of the Patriots last year. Patriots' first 8 games were like snowflakes. I mean, it was like easy. Like any team could have beaten up on them and gone 8-0. But then the Patriots lost 3 out of the last 5 games, and in the playoffs, they did not look like a 12-4 football team. I think we're going to see something similar to the Packers this year, and I don't even think that they're going to go 12-4. My prediction's more around 9-7 and 10-6, but given the state of the NFC North, I think that is good enough to win the division. I don't see the Vikings rebounding. Obviously, they're not going to go 0-16, but I don't see them rebounding fully from their 0-2 start. And yeah, so I think the Packers have the division, but they're not as good as people are making them out to be. The flaws on this team are going to be exposed eventually, and we are going to have a better idea on who the Packers are. So, at number 5, this is actually a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be, but at number 5, I have that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a sneaky playoff team. Last year, the Buffalo Bills were the team that quietly got into the playoffs in the AFC East under the Patriots, and I think that we are going to see the same thing this year with the Steelers in the AFC North under the Ravens. The Steelers are 2-0 right now after wins against the Giants and the Broncos. Oh, look, they're not crazy, but they're wins, right? This team just fights. They play hard football, and they make you fight for every yard. They held Saquon Barkley to 6 rushing yards in the debut. This is a tough football team. They're not going to put up 50, not going to put up 40. They might put up 30, but they're going to hold you to 20. And you're gonna have a hard time putting up 15. So, my opinion on this entire team is just if Big Ben is healthy, they're a playoff team. As long as he is healthy, this team is going to be a 6 or a 7 seed. I don't see them being too much higher than that, but I think 6 and 7 kind of suits them. Right now, I think NFL or ESPN or some big name company has them at like 4th in the power rankings. That's a little too high for me. I could probably name like 8 or 9 teams that I would take over the Steelers. Honestly, I'd put the Patriots over the Steelers. 4 is a little high for me. But look, Deontay Johnson is emerging as a weapon on this team as he leads the team in targets. And James Conner, once again, last week showed us that he is a good running back after putting up 102 yards and only 12 carries. I don't math, but I'm pretty sure that's around 8 yards per carry. Maybe I think a little bit more than 8 yards per carry. That's pretty good. This defense picked up right where they were last year. They gave up the 2nd least yards per game and they're 2nd in takeaways. As long as everyone is healthy, you can't sleep on this Steelers team. Last year they went 8-8 with a quarterback named Duck. Now they got Ben Roethlisberger back. He looked good in week 1. He looked better. He didn't look better in week 2. They actually almost gave up the lead as the offense just like stalled in the second half. But again, that's one of the key things about this team is that the offense didn't play good, but they still won the game because the defense was able to keep them in it. That's what I think separates a team like the Packers and a team like the Steelers, where yeah, the Packers probably have a better offense, but I think that their offense is more inconsistent than the Steelers is, and the Steelers defense can win the Steelers games. The Packers defense can't win them games, so that's the thing that I think separates them. So that's actually going to sum it up for today. For my 2-minute warning, I'm just going to list my 5 things. So at number 1, in no specific order, obviously, but number 1, I have the Patriots are for real. Number 2, I have Tampa Bay is going to be just fine. Don't worry about this team. Number 3, the Arizona Cardinals are a playoff team. I am subject to change that if I deem necessary. But as of right now, they're playing like one. I'll put it like that. Number 4, the Green Bay Packers are fool's gold. I stay on that. I've been riding that wave for the last few months now. And number 5, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a sneaky playoff team. So, I think that is going to be it for this edition of the Tailgate. I hope you enjoyed watching and listening to this episode. And I hope to see you guys next time. Have a good one. I think I was born inside a cabana with diamonds and gold on top of the phantom.